So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, yesterday we did a big video talking about the entirety of the 2022 draft class for the Detroit Lions, going from pick number 2 to pick 238, going from rounds 1 to 7, from Aidan Hutchinson to Chase Lucas, and at the end of the day, we graded the entirety of the 2022 NFL draft class for the Detroit Lions. But today I want to go a little bit more in depth on one of those players, and today I want to start the series of going in depth with each and every individual draft pick and even a select number of undrafted free agents to really get a good insider look at the type of player, the type of person, and the type of impact that will be coming into the Detroit Lions organization. And of course, to start off this series and to start it off, we're going to talk about the number 2 overall pick in Aidan Hutchinson. Now, Aidan Hutchinson, as I said, was the number 2 overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. In the 2021 college football season, Aidan Hutchinson led himself and the Michigan Wolverines to a top 2 finish in the country, to their program's very first college football playoff berth as they played in the Orange Bowl against Georgia as the number 2 ranked seed in the country. And as a personal thing, he finished in second in voting for the Heisman Trophy, being arguably the most impactful player in college football a season ago. He was awarded with accolades, he was awarded with national media, and actually he was graded and looked at as the very best player in the 2022 NFL draft class, finishing his senior season with 62 tackles, 16 and a half tackles for loss, 14 sacks, 3 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. Aidan Hutchinson was looked at as one of the best, if not the best, defensive players in college football, walking away from the 2021 season as a consensus All-American, the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, the Vince Lombardi Award, the Ronnie Lott Trophy, and the Ted Hendricks Award. He finished his career at Michigan with over 20 sacks, 23 quarterback hits, 84 quarterback hurries, and in his senior season finished with a 94.5 grade from Pro Football Focus. He was undoubtedly one of the best players in the 2022 class, and a lot of people even had him graded as the very best player in the 2022 class. And I know it's going to be hard to get value at the number 2 overall pick, right? Because it's the number 2 pick. Value isn't really something you think about when you're picking in the top 5. You think about the best talent. But even when you think about it like that, Aidan Hutchinson was genuinely a good value at number 2 because he should have gone number 1 overall. So the Lions got the best player in college football from a season ago, at least the best defender in college football a season ago, with the 2nd overall pick, meaning that game that they won versus the Green Bay Packers looks even better now because they didn't miss out on Aidan Hutchinson. They didn't miss out on their top prospect. They won that game. They established that culture even further on the final game of the season, ended this season on a positive note, and still got the player that everybody wanted them to lose that game for. That means that last game was only beneficial for the Detroit Lions, and at the end of the day, it all worked out because tanking doesn't work. But that's a story for another day. Let's get back to Aidan Hutchinson. Aidan Hutchinson brings a lot of things to the Detroit Lions. On the field, Aidan Hutchinson brings strength, he brings power, he brings production, and he brings the energy. He is an extremely strong, extremely smart player. He is somebody that is maybe the strongest defensive lineman in this year's class. I mean, you go back versus Ohio State, you go back versus Penn State, you go back versus Iowa. I mean, he's just pushing these offensive tackles right back into the quarterback's lap like they're, like their JV players or like their fourth string tackles on the scout team for Michigan. I mean, he was absolutely dominating some of the nation's top offensive lines, and you can't even say that he didn't play against top competition, because of all the teams he played, Penn State sent a tackle to the NFL that he played against. Ohio State sent both tackles to the NFL, which he played against both of them. Iowa will send multiple members of that offensive line to the NFL when they are eligible to enter the NFL draft, and Georgia sent both of their tackles to the NFL. And the only game Aidan Hutchinson did not dominate was that Georgia game. And even that Georgia game wasn't particularly that bad, right? Even that Georgia game, he made some impact plays. He had a couple tackles for losses. He was incredibly close to picking off one of the screen passes from Georgia's quarterback. He read plays very well. He diagnosed plays extremely well. And I mean, they schemed against him. And at the end of the day, that's why he didn't look very good versus the Georgia Bulldogs. It's not because he couldn't compete. It's not because Georgia was just a superior, talented team. And it's not because Georgia's offensive line was just simply that dominant versus Aidan Hutchinson. It just so happens that they schemed against him and that he wasn't able to make some of the close plays that he had made in games prior. But that doesn't mean he's not a good football player. And even though his college career ended on kind of a sour note, that doesn't mean that he is a bad football player, and it takes nothing away from the season that Aidan Hutchinson and the Michigan Wolverines had. Aidan Hutchinson, on top of the power, on top of the strength, and on top of the production, is one of the most technically refined pass rushers to come out of the NFL draft in quite a while. He may not have the athletic upside of a Chase Young. He may not be the dominant prospect of a Myles Garrett, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he was one of the most impactful players in college football a season ago. And I think the argument could be made that as a prospect in the NFL draft, Aidan Hutchinson may be the most technically refined player and maybe the most technically refined pass rusher to go in the top 5 in a very, very long time. Aidan Hutchinson is one of the few pass rushers in this year's class that has a variety of moves, that sets up different moves, that has different counters for when the offensive tackle expects something out of him. He is genuinely one of the most refined and one of the most technically perfect players in this year's class. I think that on top of his power, on top of his motor, are going to be what's going to help him thrive in the NFL. Yes, he's not the athlete that Kayvon Thibodeau is. Yes, he's not the athlete that Trayvon Walker is. He's not even has the upside of what Chase Young had when he was coming out of the NFL draft. But I think his ceiling is significantly higher than Chase Young's. I think his ceiling is higher than what you have in Kayvon Thibodeau. I think his floor is higher than what you have in Trayvon Walker. And I think day one, the impact player you are going to get is going to be far better than Kayvon Thibodeau or Trayvon Walker. And that's not to say that Aidan Hutchinson can't get better. Aidan Hutchinson, although he doesn't have the versatility to play linebacker, although he doesn't have the versatility or the length necessarily to drop into coverage, that's not what we drafted him to do. Yes, it would have been a really nice thing to have, right? Yes, a versatile pass rusher that you can put into coverage if you want. You can put him in flats. You can let him make some plays with his hands and let him make some plays in coverage with change of direction. Those things are great. But that's not what you draft an edge rusher in the top 2 to do. If you want a versatile edge rusher, if you want a versatile player that can rush the passer and a cover, you have both Julian Okwara and James Houston now on the roster that can do both of those at a relatively high level. Maybe not at the level of Kayvon Thibodeau, but at the level that you would need based on how often you're going to ask those players to actually drop into coverage, right? Julian Okwara did drop into coverage a little bit last season and actually came away with an interception versus Pittsburgh because he has the athleticism to do that. The Lions are never going to ask Aidan Hutchinson to drop into coverage. They're never going to ask him to cover a running back. They're never going to ask him to cover a flat zone in space. They're going to ask him to go after the quarterback, go after the running back. He's going to chase the football, and he's going to make tackles, sacks, forced fumbles, and turnovers. That's what they drafted him to do. But on top of all the good things that Aidan Hutchinson brings on the field for the Detroit Lions, from physical tools to production to all the different things he does really well to get to the football and get to the passer and get to the running back, I think Aidan Hutchinson's true value actually lies outside of that. Aidan Hutchinson is a phenomenal leader. Aidan Hutchinson is what the Lions want in a football player. Somebody that loves football, somebody that works hard every single day, somebody that is a leader, somebody that has a never quit attitude, somebody that will play football for a very long time at a high level and will not let themselves fail. That's why they like Jeff Okudah. That's why they like Amani Oruwariye. That's why they like Jerry Jacobs and Tracy Walker and Charles Harris. That's why You see players being signed by the Detroit Lions that are football guys, that build the culture, and I think that's exactly what they wanted in Aidan Hutchinson. Aidan Hutchinson's motor is arguably the highest in the class. Aidan Hutchinson's technique is arguably the best in the class for any edge rusher. His motor is insane. He never gives up on a play. I mean, you can go back and watch any Michigan game, even the Georgia game, and Aidan Hutchinson is chasing down wide receivers that are 40 yards down the field, and sometimes he even gets there to make a tackle. Aidan Hutchinson has room for development. He has room to grow, and although it's not the highest ceiling in the world, he certainly has the ceiling of a Joey Bosa. I think he has the ceiling of a Nick Bosa, but right now I see him as more of a Max Crosby. Really good place to start for the Detroit Lions in their NFL draft, right? If you draft a Max Crosby day one with the potential and the ceiling of a Bosa, that is phenomenal value, and that is more than worthy of the number 2 overall pick. I think pairing him with Romeo Okwara is going to be a really beneficial thing for the Detroit Lions. And I think Aidan Hutchinson, although he may not be the leader immediately on this roster, I think year 2, year 3, you're going to see him be one of the more vocal players in the NFL. And I think he's going to be the captain, and I think he's going to be the leader of this Detroit Lions defense by 2023 and 2024, and of course, for many years to follow. Now, with that being said, I do want to very quickly touch on the fit, because I have seen a couple people complain that he's not going to fit in this defense. And to that, I say that I don't believe that to be true either. The Detroit Lions are going to play a primary 4-man front and a primarily base 4-3 defense, meaning the likely starting lineup for that front 4, obviously depending on different schemes, obviously depending on different weeks, and obviously depending on whether it's a run or a pass play, you're going to likely see Romeo Okwara on one side and Aidan Hutchinson on the other as your primary 2 edge rushers, never dropping into coverage, never having to do anything but go get the quarterback, go penetrate the pocket, and go cause pressures and go create chaos for the quarterback. And on the interior, you're likely going to see a rotation of Michael Brockers, Josh Pascal, Aleem McNeil, and Levi Onwuzurike. That's what your front 4 is going to look like. Backing up Aidan Hutchinson and Romeo Okwara, I believe will be Austin Bryant and likely Julian Okwara, but I believe Julian Okwara will also play an outside linebacker position as well. We will get into all the fits, we will get into all of the defensive schemes and all the defensive formations later in the year and as the season officially approaches. But with that being the case, Aidan Hutchinson is a phenomenal player. Aidan Hutchinson was the Lions' number 2 overall pick, and I think they did a very good job with this pick. I give this pick an A overall. I think they could not have gotten a better player at this pick. I don't think they could have gotten a more immediate impact starter with this pick. And although there were players with higher ceilings, although there were players that I thought would maybe be better in the long term for the Detroit Lions, like Kyle Hamilton or maybe even Trayvon Walker, Aidan Hutchinson was the perfect pick for Detroit. Because not only did he bring the talent, but he brings the culture, he brings the attitude, he brings the motor, and those are all things that Kyle Hamilton could not bring. Those are all things that Kayvon Thibodeaux would not have brought at the same level of Aidan Hutchinson, and that is why Aidan Hutchinson, I believe, was the perfect pick for the Detroit Lions at number 2. Now, with all of that being said, that is all for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about the Aidan Hutchinson pick. What would you give the grade? I give him a grade as a player. I give it an A+ as a position, and I think he was, as I said, the perfect player for this Lions team to draft it to. So with all that being said, I'd be very curious what you guys think, but with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions.